And tonight on Coast to Coast, you get David Wilcock for the full 3 hours. His latest work is called The Synchronicity Key, right down our alley. We'll be talking with David about that in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM. Noted author, professional lecturer, television host, filmmaker, researcher of ancient civilizations, David Wilcock. David and I run into each other a lot these days at various conferences and speaking engagements, and he's put together a number of books, of course, and The Source, The Reincarnation of Edgar Cayce, but this one is called The Synchronicity Key, the hidden intelligence guiding the universe and you, something we've talked about for so many years. David, welcome. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, George.
Looking forward to this. This is a topic that really strikes home for me. I'll get into some of the reasons why later, but it's always good to see you, my friend. What's new?
Well, I had to put the guitar down to pick up the phone and talk to you. So.
I was at an event.
You win.
And somebody was saying, Noori, you and Wilcock always have to sing at these places. And but it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been really enjoying learning the guitar, and I'm working on more and more complicated stuff now. I'm doing this one guitar website where they rank the difficulty of the songs you can learn on 1 to 10 scale, and everything like 8 and above is a red, like the red color,
yeah,
which signifies like you're gonna die trying to learn this song. And I've just about finished working on an 8. Which is actually the intro to the Heart song, Crazy on You. It's really fast and intricate and technical. And I've just been really enjoying that. It's like a very different head for me than the head where I'm writing books and talking about all this cosmic stuff. And
it's a good outlook.
Yeah, it is. And I only picked up the guitar like 2.5 years ago. I did minor in jazz in college, but it was all percussion. So I can do a really amazing jazz drum solo, but I really missed the fact that I never had a melodic instrument.
Well, I know when you were doing Beyond Belief with me, you you came out dancing Gangnam Style.
That's right, I did.
I remember you brought the audience to its
and then
knees.
You had me dance that way in front of the Conscious Life Expo.
Well, you're good.
The Village Idiot. Thanks a lot, George.
You jump up and do it. So
that's true. I follow my orders, right? Just like they said in Nuremberg.
You do it well. Look, the Source Field Investigations, one of your books, it was a bestseller. I think you've got another one with the Synchronicity Key here. This is something, David, that really strikes home for everybody. All of us are in this mode. As you know, I say there are no coincidences. I think things are done by synchronicity and fate. Give me your overview of this work, the Synchronicity Key.
It's an interesting phenomenon. I don't even really know where to start. You know, I have a friend who's a guy in the music industry that wrote some hit songs for Madonna and Michael Jackson and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's a really switched on guy, and he's telling me that these people that he knows in the music industry are starting to see numbers on clocks all the time. And they don't know what the hell is going on.
Just like we have for years.
Yeah. And they're like, what is this? What is this 11:11? And actually, as I said that, it was just 11:11 Pacific time here, so I was reminded of that. But, you know, it started for me, I guess, really it didn't start until I quit doing all marijuana and alcohol, which was in September 1992. I'm actually coming up on my 21-year sobriety anniversary.
Good for you. Were you doing too much of both?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was maintenance high. I basically just stayed intoxicated, and there was a lot of pain that I was trying to run away from. And when you go through a process of, 12-step groups, you basically, the steps are all about how do you face the thing that you're hiding from with the addiction. And, once I got clean and you go through about 3 months where you just feel horrible because you have no serotonin.
And the withdrawals and everything else.
Oh, yeah. But then after that, and even before that, really, I mean, I started to record my dreams every morning, which my mother had been doing ever since I was a little kid. She had all these dream notebooks, so she was the inspiration for that. And the dreams were becoming very fascinating. They were giving me all kinds of interesting insights. This is kind of unflattering, but I guess I'll share it with 20 million of my closest friends.
Yeah.
There was a girl who took a strong interest in me. She was 24 years old, and I found out over the course of time that she was married to a 54-year-old man. And she wanted to have an affair with me.
How old were you at the time?
Oh, gosh, 19.
Wow. So she's the cougar.
Yeah, and she goes,
she also
David, you have the most beautiful eyes I have ever seen on a man. I was like, wow, thank you. That's really amazing. And we were...
And compliments go far with you.
They do.
Yep.
They do, especially back then because I had low self-esteem. I was coming off of a massive drug addiction. We had this gym class. I'm probably giving too much information now, but we had this gym class where I'm hacking up all these lung cookies, as I used to call them, when you cough up resin out of your lungs. Because once I stopped smoking, all the stuff started to
breaks
clear.
down. Exactly.
And then she starts to want to, have this extramarital affair with me. And I kind of thought maybe we were going to do it, but it really was against my moral and ethical principles, and I didn't want this guy to come after me.
So you're fighting yourself at that time.
Yeah, and then I have this dream in which she's attacking me with a dagger.
Oh, boy.
And the only defense that I had was to take my shirt off and to try to trap the dagger as she's trying to stab at me with it.
So you got it wrapped around your arm or something?
Yeah, and then I'm also holding it sort of like between both hands. And I'm trying to, wrap the arm,
Yeah.
And she's just laughing the whole time and acting like it's not a big deal, but at the same time, she's being extremely savage. And then, interestingly enough, after this dream, and it was very eye-opening, I was like, wow, what the heck is this all about? Then we actually went to a Chinese restaurant together, and we go into the Chinese restaurant, and I worked for 2 years with people who have developmental disabilities, and I love them. I mean, I actually really enjoyed that work, even though I did change adult diapers and things like that, and I worked with people who had severe behavioral problems.
It's a lot of work and a great commitment on your part.
Yeah, and, they gave us 2 cents over minimum wage. It was $5.77 an hour, and that was supposed to make you feel good that you're getting more than the minimum. But anyway, we went to this Chinese restaurant for our, I guess, a date, you could call it, and they brought in a busload of about 25 developmentally disabled people to have their group dinner. And so all these people were staring at her and smoking cigarettes and drinking soda, and the whole thing just got really, really bizarre. And I just kept feeling like something's not right about this. This is a sign. This is not a random event that these people all came into the restaurant when I already had this crazy dream.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went back to my room, and she starts trying to make out with me, and I just told her, look, I'm just not comfortable. I'm really sorry. This just doesn't feel right. And then I had dreams telling me, no, you made the right decision.
How'd you get rid of her?
Well, I mean, basically, if you got a woman in your room who's that hot and she wants to make out with you and you just say, sorry, I'm not really interested, she's not going to come back.
She just walked away, huh? Well, you're lucky you didn't end up like the Redford did in the movie The Natural.
I haven't seen that one.
Well, you got to get that. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. She turned on him.
Well, no, I was lucky. That's true, because that could happen. She could have become like the woman in the dream.
Yep.
Her character in the dream.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was one of the very early temptations when I was getting sober and my sobriety was still sort of in jeopardy. I could have relapsed, but I stayed clean, and I avoided these sexual temptations that were coming my way, and I basically was able to kind of get my life straightened out. And what started to happen after this was I got the following February, because this was in September, October, where this whole sequence of events was happening with this woman, and I was getting sober. Then in February, that's when a friend of mine told me that UFOs were real, and he heard it from his physics professor, who happened to be the head of the department at a major New York State university, and also worked for NASA throughout the 1970s, and said to my friend in a private 2-hour teacher-student conference they had that UFOs are real. The government has been hiding the truth ever since at least the Roswell crash.
And this is coming from a scientist.
This is coming from the head of the physics department.
Wow.
Who actually told his whole class, leaving everybody slack-jawed, and then my guy happened to be the 8th student in the class and took a teacher-student conference right after it was over and said basically, okay, what the hell are you talking about? And he got to know all this technical detail, and I've gone through it many times. By this point, I'd just come out of the 90 and 90 they tell you to do, 90 meetings in 90 days where you don't use, and you basically go to a AA or NA meeting every day. I didn't do narcotics, but The only two choices you had were Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous. And NA started to freak me out after a while because all these guys are in there like saying, hey, man, you ever get that feeling when you're in the doctor's office and you just want to open up a drawer and look for works? And I'm like, no.
Get me out of here, right?
Yeah. And then in AA, I was like, well, I never really had a drinking problem. I just like to get high and smoke grass.
What did you drink when you did drink?
Usually like screwdrivers. I do like vodka and orange juice.
Okay.
And I one time ended up so drunk that my friend kicked me in the head, and I had a little blood, and
and you didn't even know
stuff
it.
would happen. I had vomiting.
Would you drive too?
Oh God, no. No.
Well,
No, I was. That's not
a smart thing you did.
Yeah. No, I've always been like almost polite to a fault. Like I will be the guy who not only gives you the shirt off of his back, but I'll go to the store and buy you another shirt, and you can wear that one on top of the dirty one.
Well, do you find it difficult to keep this restraint?
You mean staying clean?
Uh-huh.
I did this event called Lightning in a Bottle. It's like Burning Man, except Burning Man's about 40,000. This was about 17,000 people. There was a lot of grass being smoked there, and it was the best quality stuff that people can buy.
How could you know?
It was very aromatic.
Oh,
and there is a sort of a feeling that I get, but it's like I understand now that my happiness relies on chemicals in my brain that have to be secreted in order for the happiness response to exist. And if I use those drugs, all the drugs are doing is it's like telling my body, okay, I want to use what my supply of happiness is for the week. I want to use it all tonight.
Plus, you do know if you go over the line, it could destroy you.
Oh, yeah. You blow out all your happiness in one shot, and then the whole rest of the week you're depressed. And ultimately what happened to me was I couldn't feel good unless I smoked. And you're right. When I went to the meetings, the thing that shocked me was, the first night I went, it was a synchronicity in of itself, because the night that I went the first time, 2 anniversaries were going on. There was a 5-year and a 13-year. And I'm listening to the stories that these guys are saying and how low they had to sink, because they say, you want to raise the bottom, so your bottom doesn't have to mean that you, ruin your whole life and ruin the people you love. And, the 13-year guy, he, went off on a drinking bender and left his wife and kids at home for 13 or, 7 days or something. And he ended up on the side of the road and puke and piss and, just horrible. And I was listening to these stories going, my God, here I'm worried that, I'm going to fail a class in college. Well, I have all my needs paid for by a meal plan, and I'm living on campus. And these guys are talking about, frickin' brink of death type stuff. So it was a big eye-opener for me, and I'm like, wow. If this is as low as I ever need to go, that I walked into a psychology class and I'm going, why does everybody have a blue piece of paper on their desk and why is it so quiet? And then I realized it's a midterm and I hadn't studied, and that's my bottom. Yeah, that's good enough for me. I don't need it to go any lower than that.
So let's bring this into 2 things. One, when you wrote the source field investigations, you did mention a little bit about synchronicity. I remember that was in there.
Yeah.
And so there's an obvious tie-in between that and today. What is your definition of synchronicity?
Well, synchronicity was coined by Dr. Carl Jung, who was a contemporary of Sigmund Freud, who I was reading about back in college, and probably was on that very blue paper that I just described. And he defined synchronicity as the similarity between one or more events that shouldn't have any relationship to each other otherwise, but there's some mysterious connection between seemingly disconnected events. So on the surface, I brought this hot girl to the Chinese restaurant, right? On the surface, there's no connection between this busload of 25 developmentally disabled people showing up at the same time that we did. But on another level, I saw it as a very poignant message that, I was acting like these people, and I was being less than fully present, in the same way that the dream was telling me the same thing. So synchronicity, for me, a lot of people keep saying, I get this question all the time, David, what about the numbers? Why do I keep seeing these numbers all the time? And I say, look, the numbers are a symbol from some greater part of you. You could call it your soul, or I like to call it the higher self. And they are awakening you to the fact that we live in a hologram. It's not real in the way that most people think. This Cartesian matter paradigm that we've been living in is only a convenient arrangement. It's like a marriage to some bondage where the marriage doesn't have any of the benefits that marriage should have, and all you're doing is getting nagged by matter all the time. You're not having anything fun. It's just a miserable existence. That's the existence that most people are living in, where they think that they're born and they die, and when you die, that's it. You're done.
A lot of people think that.
I know. And I even when I was in the throes of my addiction, I never felt that way.
I've had my doubts.
Well, I know, and we've gone through this before, but I noticed in the beginning of the show that you had an audio clip of yourself talking to a caller in which you articulated very clearly the same thing that I feel. And I think you and I have started to see more and more of the same way as time goes on here.
Maybe we've evolved. Maybe we're just getting old, David, huh?
It could be. I got over the hill on March 8th of this year. I'm 40 now. So.
Oh, old man, you.
What can I say?
I'll buy 10 years from you. You and I will negotiate a price.
I'm still fighting, and so are you. So.
Well, that's the name of the game. You have to. So synchronicity, what causes it? I mean, it's there. We know it's there. How does it work?
Well, the only rational conclusion that you can make as these events intrude on your reality, sooner or later, you have to start seeing, okay, there's some part of me that's intelligent, that's got this whole thing figured out a lot more than I do, and it's out there going around and setting up things to happen and making somebody drop the banana peel that I end up slipping on or whatever, you know. There's weird subconscious coordination between people, and in some cases with inanimate objects, including somebody wrote in the other day and said, I'm realizing that something as seemingly insignificant as biting down wrong on a seed and getting the seed stuck between my teeth, and that painful event happens right as I'm having this thought that I realize is a very bad idea for me to be going into. That seed was not an accident. My body was manipulated by some other part of me to make me bite down the wrong way.
See, but I wonder, David, if we generate the events or if this force that's out there that creates this synchronicity generates it.
That's a good question, and I believe the answer is that there is a greater force involved, and I believe that on one level the force is ourselves and our own soul. On another level, there's a collaboration with other people's souls, and we're all talking to each other on some other plane of existence. Then I think there's also higher beings that are not incarnate on Earth that are helping coordinate it, and those beings in turn are coordinating the intelligent directives of living planets, stars, and in fact the galaxy itself, because in my model it's a living universe.
A living universe.
It's a living, thinking universe. The universe is made of stuff that thinks.
Is it a God-driven universe?
A lot of people call it God. You know, that's a sort of a gender-specific term that has a lot of emotional charge for some people, but we can go with the word God. I mean, it's totally appropriate.
You've been doing this for a long, long time. Are you getting answers?
Absolutely. I have a dream practice, and I'm celebrating 21 years of sobriety and getting my dreams every morning, as I said, on September 22nd. And I can't tell you how many times I've had incredibly accurate dreams of future events before they happen. It's happened so many times that anybody who